President Biden has come down hard on Republican legislators in traditionally red states voting to restrict voting rights. Take a look at what he said in his news conference.
What I'm worried about is how un-American this whole initiative is. It's sick. It's sick.
Senator, are Republicans going too far in some of these various states?
You know what's sick is have the President of the United States to play the race card continuously in such a hypocritical way. He said the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Well, he made an hour speech when he was a senator suggesting the filibuster was the best thing for the Senate to make it different than the House. This is a letter signed by 61 senators in 2017 when we had the House, the Senate, and the White House, 27 Democrats saying, please keep in place the filibuster. What's sick is H.R. 1. Federalizing state elections. In our Constitution, states supposed to run elections. H.R. 1 is the biggest power grab in the history of the country. It institutionalizes ballot harvesting. It does away with the voter ID requirement. It will take over every election in every state. It makes the Federal Election Commission a partisan commission. It will no longer be bipartisan. So that's the power grab we're standing up to. To my friends in Georgia, they had the highest turnout in the history of Georgia. We had 150-something million people vote. So every time a Republican does anything, we're a racist. If you're a white conservative, you're a racist. If you're a black Republican, you're either Prop or Uncle Tom. They use the racism card to advance a liberal agenda, and we're tired of it. H.R. 1 is sick, not what they're doing in Georgia.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the provisions in Georgia, and these are specific ones that a lot of people are having heartburn about, Senator. It would limit the number and location of drop boxes. It allows counties to cut off early voting at 5 p.m. before a lot of working people get off and could go vote. And this is the one that I think is creating the biggest fuss. It prohibits, it makes it a crime to give food or drink to voters waiting in line. Senator, why on earth, if Americans are willing to wait in hours to vote, would you make it a crime for people to come and give them a bottle of water?
Well, all I can say is that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I agree with you there. But in Georgia, you had an explosion of mail-in balloting. The Carter-Baker Commission in 2005 looked at our election system and they had two warnings for us. Absentee mail voting is ripe for fraud, and ballot harvesting, where an individual can collect ballots on behalf of other people, is a threat to democracy as we know it. Both of those provisions are in H.R. 1. So if you don't like what they're doing in Georgia, you can go to court and stop them. But what they're doing with H.R. 1 is destroying the ability of any state to run elections, doing away with voter ID, changing the Federal Election Commission to make it partisan, and institutionalizing national ballot harvesting, which would be a disaster to our elections.
And welcome back to my channel. In this episode of Lindsey Graham sucks so many balls. The video you just watched is Lindsey Graham on Fox News this morning. Would be mine. I think it was a Friday morning thing. Well, I just got it today. But would be Lindsey Graham on Fox News being Lindsey Graham, being a disingenuous, gross blah. He's right about one thing, and we'll discuss that in a minute. When they talk about the election laws that went down in Georgia, he's actually trying to defend them. And might I remind you that Lindsey Graham called the Secretary of State, George Raffensperger, I think I'm pronouncing that right, to get him to overturn the election. And now he's supporting this election thing and saying that election laws should not be federalized. Well, here lies the problem. Every time that individual states try to discriminate, the federal government has to step in because, you know, you can't discriminate. There are certain laws. And the Georgia thing, all of the things that they listed in the Georgia bill disproportionately affect poor and minority communities. Let me give you an example. The ID law. It costs $35 to get your ID, but it also costs to get your birth certificate, your Social Security card, and if you're a woman, you have to go get your marriage license or your divorce decree to get a photo ID. That can add up to about $150 to $200 depending. And people don't have that kind of cash. And before you come over here and tell me that everyone has an ID, I can tell you that they don't. And if you want universal voter ID, then you better start handing out the documentation and the photo ID itself for free. You want that, then you better start making it easily accessible, and you better start making it free. Because otherwise, it's nothing more than a Jim Crow era poll tax. Which brings me to the next part of Lindsey Graham's video, where he says that it is not Jim Crow, and all they do is they weaponize racism against Republicans. No, how about this? How about you stop doing racist things and we won't call you racist? If you don't want to be called a racist, Lindsey Graham, don't, when we're talking about election fraud, bring up Black Lives Matter. When we're talking about anything, don't bring up the crimes that you quote unquote think black people did. That's racist. And when you say that, I'm going to give you credit, you used a word better than I thought you would, that they tokenize black people. Well, yeah, you literally sit there and be like, I can't be racist. This is my black friend. That's the definition of a token. So if you don't want to be accused of these things, how about you just simply don't do them? Like, is that, how hard is it to not be a discriminatory piece of crap? Like, for real, how hard is that? When he is then questioned by Chris Wallace on the laws, he immediately goes after or says that the one doesn't make sense. The food and water one doesn't make sense. And it doesn't. It's archaic and it's cruel. Most of the laws are cruel, but this is cruel. But then instead of actually answering the question about the voter ID thing, which I just explained, or trying to shut early voting down, he then punts and tries to go into a rant about election fraud, which didn't happen, blah, 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 blah. And he tries to, say that this is sick and gross, that look at Georgia's election law. Well, no, don't look at Georgia's election law. Look at what they're trying to push through. It's not a whataboutism here. The law that's being pushed through is because y'all are trying to suppress votes. We know you tried to cheat, Lindsay. We know. And here you are trying to cheat again. And I'm really upset that Chris Wallace didn't bring up the fact that they can take over voting precincts, that they can overturn elections that they don't like. Like, that is something that Chris Wallace should have brought up. Why didn't he bring it up when he was writing down the list? That's an issue to me. But the fact that Lindsey Graham immediately punts to whataboutism shows you Lindsey Graham doesn't have an argument. He can't go against what's in the bill because the bill is so terrible. So the best he can do is say, well, look over here. Look over here. Don't look at the bill that just went through that hurts people. Look over here while I lie about this bill and make it sound like it's a whole lot worse. All it does is allows early voting, gets rid of the voter ID requirement because, again, it can be hard for people to get IDs. A voter registration card should be more than enough. And if you want it to include a picture, fine, but it better be effing free. Because there should not be a poll tax. And the first person that comes into my comment section and says something stupid like, well, poor people don't make good life decisions, so they shouldn't get to vote. That's called a poll tax, and it's illegal, and you're stupid. Know your history. Stupid. Stupid. He talks about ballot harvesting as well. Why was he not mad when Republicans were about ballot harvesting all up and down, and in some cases illegally, where they were ordered to stop in California? Lindsey Graham was awfully silent when they were doing that, but ballot harvesting is a legal way to collect votes and ensure that people that cannot make it to the polls can do that. I don't care if Republicans do it. I don't care if Democrats do it, as long as it's done within the parameters that it's supposed to be, which, again, it's been done. I think there's also a case where they ballot harvested in North Carolina, and Republicans actually use that to cheat. So maybe Lindsey Graham should talk to his own party. But other than that, I really do think that you should be able to collect and help people vote. This is ridiculous. Lindsey Graham sounds ridiculous with the whataboutism. And it's just, can he not be gross for like 5 seconds? No. Okay, well, yeah. All right, guys, I will see you later.